that we have in India. We'll talk about these mosquito-borne diseases and how can we manage them. We'll also talk about waterborne diseases and their management, and airborne diseases and their management as well. We'll then move on to some health and well-being tips that we can all accommodate during a rainy season, and then I'll focus upon how can we build immunity, not only for acupressure points, but I'm going to talk about the importance of diet, the importance of a physical routine, the importance of controlling stress, and obviously having proper sleep patterns also. So let's start with today's session. So see, monsoons in itself in India we are actually blessed that we get to see all the different seasons, whether it is winters, whether it is spring, the summer, the monsoons, the autumn. So all the seasons we kind of get on a platter out here. So after the summer heat, monsoon comes as a big respite. But again, this is a time wherein the risk of infections increases, and we kind of get exposed to multiple viruses, bacteria, and other infections. And the chances of infection is twice higher during monsoons than in any other season. Now, the high moisture content in the air, it enables the harmful microorganisms to thrive, resulting in the transmission of a number of diseases. So it is because of this high moisture content, and at times when our immunity is not up to the mark, that is the reason why during monsoons we have so many diseases cropping up. So many of these diseases remain undiagnosed until they affect a major health aspect negatively. An early diagnosis and a few basic preventive and hygiene measures can keep us healthy and safe during this season of diseases in India. Primarily, the most common diseases are categorized into different, there are different types of monsoon diseases. So the first one is the mosquito-borne diseases, which is very very common. So I will be talking about a few diseases out here, and also I'll talk about certain natural ways in which we can manage the symptoms. So first in line would be malaria, which is actually caused by this parasite, which is called Plasmodium vivax. And this is one of the major health concerns in India during the monsoons. Now, it is the breeding season for mosquitoes, specifically the Anopheles mosquito, which is the host to the malaria-causing parasite. And this species of mosquito breeds in water channels and streams. And if someone gets affected by malaria, there's usually very high rise of temperature, up to 100, degrees as well, along with a lot of chills and rigor that the person experiences. Now, I'm not going to talk about the symptoms out here because we are all well versed with the symptoms. But if I have to talk about how can we manage, the symptoms of malaria, I'm in no way advocating replacement of modern medicine. I'm just talking about adjuncts out here which can actually help in proper healing, in better healing, and in early healing of the symptoms. So please make a note of the following that I'm going to talk about. So the first is apple cider vinegar. So apple cider vinegar can be mixed with water, and you could soak in a towel and keep it on the carbs for 10 to 12 minutes. You could take about 20 ml of apple cider, add it to about 100 ml, water, and then dip a towel into it, and then soak the towel and keep it wrapped around the calf muscles. This helps to ease the pains and the cramps that are associated with fever. The second is ginger water. Again, boiling ginger in water and drinking it about 1 to 2 cups on a daily basis can again help in breaking the in kind of breaking the inflammation inside and helping in the recovery process as well. The third could be cinnamon and honey water combination. So boiling cinnamon and pepper powder in water. Once you boiled it, then please add the honey to the strained water and drink it again 1 to 2 times in a day. So this is again a good way of controlling the fever and the chills that are associated with malaria. The next is having some fresh juice, specifically orange juice, or sweet lime juice or grapefruit juice on a daily basis can again provide the energy that is basically needed in countering the effects of malaria, which can cause a person to feel quite debilitated. And if you are a tea drinker, then probably having some herbal tea and milk can be quite beneficial for you. So again, the herbal tea can be a concoction that you prepare, adding basil leaves, some turmeric, some cinnamon, some ginger, ginger, either powder or probably fresh ginger that can be added to the infusion and let it boil for some time, and then you can have the herbal decoction. Or probably you can also have turmeric milk. If milk is suitable to you, you can also look at having turmeric milk, which again helps to reduce inflammation in the body and helps in the early remission of symptoms as well. So these are specific herbal measures that can help you if you're suffering from malaria, and this can also help to in quick convalescence as well. The next important category wherein a person may suffer from specifically mosquito-borne diseases is called dengue. Some people call it dengue, but the pronunciation is dengue, which is caused by the Aedes aegypti mosquito, which actually breeds in stagnant water, such as water in buckets, drums, flower pots, wells, tree holes. So it is quite important. We'll talk about some remedial measures later on, but before that, we'll just talk about dengue per se, because dengue can be a quite complicated illness. If it is not controlled, it can lead to fall in your platelet levels, and which can become a life-threatening condition as well. So now, with the change in the landscapes and urbanization, these organisms which cause dengue, they have adapted themselves and are now found in urban homes as well. Now, the incubation period of dengue fever is 4 to 7 days after being bitten. So that means if a mosquito bites you, it takes about 4 to 7 days for the incubation period to complete, and then the first signs and symptoms, which include fever and fatigue, which basically come up. Now, I will again talk about certain herbal remedies which have been known to kind of help in improving the overall condition when a person is suffering from dengue. So the first is called Giloy, which is also termed as Tinospora cordifolia, which we use very religiously in cases of dengue fever. So Giloy is available both in the Ayurvedic form as an Ayurvedic supplement. It is also available in the homeopathic form, wherein it is called Tinospora cordifolia, and we usually use it in the mother tincture, adding about 8 to 10 drops of the medicine in some water and giving it to the patient 2 to 3 times a day. Now, this specific herb, Giloy, helps the patient in maintaining the metabolic rate and also improves the immune response. Giloy is also important because it helps to increase the level of platelets also. And it you can simply and if you have the Giloy herb available, if you do not have the medicine but you have the herb available, you can simply boil its stem and drink it as a herbal drink, or you can add some holy basil or tulsi leaves to it for added benefit. The second important herb that we use in treating dengue is papaya leaves. In homeopathy, we call it the Carica papaya. Again, we use a mother tincture which is made from the leaves. Now, this is known as one of the most important remedies for fighting dengue fever, and it shows wonderful effects. So, nutrients such as vitamin C aid to stimulate the immunity, and it helps in increasing the platelet count as well. And also, it helps in improving the antioxidants in the body. So the leaves also help to remove toxins. So they also work on the liver, which help to remove the toxins. So papaya leaves can be used. Alternately, you can use, if you are not getting papaya leaves easily, you can order the Carica papaya mother tincture and take about 8 to 10 drops mixed in water, about 30 ml water, and take it 2 to 3 times in a day. So the platelet count is maintained, the body antioxidants are maintained, and uh, the liver is basically stimulated to remove toxins faster. Now the third herb that I'm going to talk about is called methi. or fenugreek. So the leaves of methi help in reducing fever and in minimizing the pain. So basically, this can be, so you could soak the methi leaves in water and then blend it to make a juice out of it. And you can also add methi powder into the juice. And this helps to control both the fever, and also it helps to control the pain as well, because it can be severe pain that the person may complain of. The next important herb, not mentioned on the picture, but I'll tell you, is called the golden seal, which is also termed as hydrastis. So hydrastis is available in India. Primarily, it is available in homeopathic shops, again in the mother tincture form. You may not get golden seal otherwise in the market, apart from in homeopathic stores, because this is a North American herb, and this helps in headaches, nausea, and fever, and it has antiviral property which fights against the dengue fever again. Similarly, neem leaves are quite important, and it has antibacterial properties. And neem also helps to improve the blood platelet count, and the continuous use of it helps in enhancing immunity as well. So you could soak some fresh neem leaves in cold water, filter them, and drink it 4 times a day. Drinking of this juice should be avoided if you are pregnant, because it may cause some contractions in the stomach, in the uterus. Sorry. Next comes the basil leaves, which are the tulsi patta that we call. So these leaves have antibacterial properties again, and they also promote good circulation, and it helps to reduce fever by improving the sweat levels. It helps to release sweat. It helps a person to break the fever. So you could boil about 10 to 15 tulsi leaves in water, let it cool down, and drink the basil water for at least 2 to 3 times a day. So all these aspects can actually help and complement the modern medicine treatment that you may be having for controlling dengue. Now, the next mosquito-borne disease that we can look at, minimizing its impact is chikungunya. So chikungunya is again a complaint which is caused by the Aedes albopictus mosquito, which is a specific breed. And in this, there is a lot of body ache, lot of pain, specifically in the joints. And if you have had chikungunya, it causes a lot of pain in the joints, like the wrists, the knees, the elbows, the ankles. So all these joints, there's a lot of pain that the person basically suffers from. So what can we do from a more herbal perspective? What are the recommendations that probably I would share with you? The first is an Epsom salt soak. So Epsom salt is nothing but magnesium sulfate, and this has a very powerful impact on our joints and muscles. So any kind of muscle ache and muscle pains can respond very well to Epsom salt, and this also helps to reduce inflammation and pain. So in addition, this warm water improves blood circulation in the body as well. Add some Epsom salt in some warm water, and then apply the Epsom salt, bath to particular joints in the body. You could probably dip a towel and put the towel on specific joints on the body, and this will help to reduce the pain that you may experience with chikungunya. And the pain can be very, very severe. The next anti-inflammatory remedy is turmeric, haldi, which is highly effective, and it helps to reduce both the pain caused by the chikungunya virus, and it also helps to improve, the level of antioxidants in the body, and it acts as an anti-inflammatory agent and is very important in again reducing pain. So turmeric can be taken both in milk, and if you are sensitive to milk, you can probably take a glass of water and boil some haldi powder in it, and then strain off the haldi powder and have the water warm itself a couple of times a day. The next herb, which is again important and could be used with turmeric also, or used separately, is ginger. The ginger is again anti-inflammatory and pain relieving, and you could do well to boil both the turmeric and ginger together, and then sieve off the decoction and have the water about 2 to 3 times a day. The next is coconut water, again very very helpful because this has an impact on the liver, a positive effect, and that is where the chikungunya virus often attacks after infecting the body. So coconut water helps in speedy recovery and reduces the chikungunya symptoms that the person will be suffering from. Again, tulsi leaves or basil leaves, again, they have the same principle. like we talked about in the previous disease. So this again helps in quick recovery. It helps to enhance the immune system. It helps to really, reduce inflammation, and it contains a lot of antioxidants, which again help in the healing process. Now the next is sunflower seeds and honey. Now the mixture of powdered sunflower seeds and honey is a great one that helps in relieving joint pain. If you are suffering from joint pains because of chikungunya, you can take some sunflower seeds, make a powder, and then add some honey into it, and you could have about 1 teaspoon a couple of times a day. So sunflower seeds are full of zinc and vitamin E, which are again important for the immune system as well. And on the other hand, honey has anti-inflammatory properties also. So again, an alkaline diet is recommended. Things which are acidic in nature should be avoided because they would increase inflammation in the body. The role of garlic is again as an anti-inflammatory out here. It helps to reduce inflammation in the body. So from a food perspective, there are so many things that you can do at home, which not only reduce the intensity of symptoms, it also helps in early recovery. So, in generally speaking, if a person is only taking medication, it may take the person, a week or 10 days to get better. But if you are also incorporating these herbal measures, probably the recovery would be much more fast. Now, what are the common things that you can incorporate that can help you protect against these mosquito-borne diseases? Now, these are general measures that you can use at home. So the pictures are very self-explanatory in nature. So you could use a mosquito net in your house when you're sleeping. Keep your doors and windows closed in the evenings so you don't let the mosquitoes enter the house. You could maintain hygiene and wash your bathrooms regularly. You should not let any water storage or water collection to take place in and around your house or inside your house. Ensure that there is no water stagnation inside the pots or inside any utensil or any place which could promote stagnant water. You could use mosquito repellents or creams when you step out of the house, or probably you could also use it at night before you go to sleep. Regular fumigation of your area will always be beneficial in ensuring that these kind of diseases are can be controlled. Now, moving on to some waterborne diseases, which is the next important category, because during monsoons the waterborne diseases become quite active. So we'll talk about a few, as you can see on this PowerPoint. So the first disease that we'll talk about is called typhoid, which is also called Salmonella typhi bacteria, caused by a bacteria. And this is a waterborne disease which spreads because of poor sanitation. So eating uncovered or spoiled food and drinking contaminated water are the two major causes of typhoid. And if you suffer from typhoid, the symptoms would include fever, which could be a low-grade fever of 101, 102, but a long-lasting fever with evening rise of temperature. There would be headaches, there would be joint pains, there would be sore throat, and later on there could be loose bowels as well. Diarrhea could also be there. Now, typhoid can be a very debilitating disease, which basically means that post-typhoid it takes a long time to recover because typhoid affects all our major organs. It affects our immunity, it affects our vitality, it affects our liver to a great extent. It makes us very weak. It makes our digestive system quite weak, and it may cause unnecessary hair fall also. So those are the complications that are associated with typhoid. And typhoid, as we talked, is basically spread by eating spoiled food and drinking contaminated water. So it is highly recommended that during these monsoon seasons, do not eat outside food. Do not eat the roadside food because there will be a higher chance of contamination. Now, the next common ailment, waterborne ailment in monsoons that we see is called leptospirosis, which is also known as Wales syndrome. And this is again caused due to contact with dirty water or muck or mud during the monsoons. So this is accompanied when the fever happens. This is accompanied by shivers. There's intense muscle pain. There is headache, and obviously there is fever as well. And if in case you suffered a cut or a bruise, ensure you keep it covered before stepping out of your home. Because any cut on the feet, on the leg, if it get exposed to mud or muck, and or dirty water, chances of developing leptospirosis increase again. Now, the third important, waterborne disease that is very common is jaundice. Now, this is contracted through contaminated food and water again, and wherein there is poor sanitation. So this causes liver dysfunction. That means it affects the liver primarily, along with symptoms like weakness and fatigue. It also causes yellowing of the eyes. There is excessive yellow urine, and the person would feel nausea and vomiting most of the times. Jaundice is again can be a fatal disease also, because this would because this affects the liver to a great extent, and because the liver gets affected, the body is unable to throw out toxins, and with the body not being able to throw out toxins, the toxins accumulate, and this leads to more of systemic weakness that may develop. Lastly, we'll talk about gastrointestinal infections like vomiting, diarrhea, and gastroenteritis, which are caused due to the consumption of stale, uncovered, or contaminated food and water. So it is advisable to boil water before you drink and keep all foods covered before consumption to avoid any kind of these stomach infections. Now, the treatment protocols for most of these ailments can vary, because typhoid may need some very strong antibacterial measures. For leptospirosis, also you need some very specific medication. Jaundice basically needs a lot of rest and proper food, so that the recovery may happen. Again, GI symptoms like vomiting and diarrhea and gastroenteritis again need rest and specific remedies. But apart from these remedies, there are certain things which are very common in all these complaints. That is the food that you eat. So in all these concerns that we talked about, the food is a very, very important factor, because our digestive system has taken a hit, our stomach has taken a hit, our liver has taken a hit. So what should we do? So in all these cases, it is important that we take a high calorie diet. So every patient suffering from typhoid, from gastroenteritis, or from the other jaundice is recommended to have a high calorie diet. Now, the high amount of calories give energy and strength to the patient who's already weak. And with the weakness, the patient would have lost weight, as is very common with typhoid fever specifically. So, high calorie food would include items such as boiled potatoes. You could take boiled potatoes, you could take fruit, custard, you could take, semolina idli. So, all these items are suggested to patients who probably would not be able to digest anything which is quite heavy. So light food, but which is a high calorie intake, is important out here. Now again, you should take food which is high in carbohydrate content. So so if you search for what to eat during such conditions, it is often recommended that you should have high food which is high in carbohydrates. So semi-solid food is something that can be easily digested. So specific to a patient who has gastroenteritis or jaundice or typhoid, it is important to eat semi-solid food. So foods like baked potato, baked apple, boiled rice, moong dal khichdi, then moong dal chila. All of these are quite advantageous for the body when one is suffering from such complaints. Similarly, having plenty of fluids and fruits with high water content is important. So you could look at including coconut water, fresh fruit juice in small quantities at one time, cucumber, apple juice, some buttermilk that is charged, some barley water, electrolyte fortified water like ORS solution, vegetable broth. All these should be a part of your dietary intake if you are suffering from any of these GI complaints. Now, apart from this, you could also look at consuming dairy products. Now, when I talk about dairy products, I'm not talking about milk, because in specifically if you have gastroenteritis or if you're having typhoid, you may not be able to digest milk. It may cause nausea and vomiting. But you can probably look at having some cottage cheese. You could look at having some yogurt or curd, which is fresh, which is not stale. So this again helps to ease the stomach. It helps to bind the bowel movements also if you're having some yogurt, and this can be a part of your diet as well. Now, having soup and having cooked vegetables is again quite beneficial because soup is something which is very light, which the stomach can easily digest. So it could be a clear vegetable broth that you could have. You could have some clear light chicken soup also if you wish to. That will provide you energy. You could have some carrot soup as well. So all these are very very nutritious also and helpful, specifically if you are having stomach related issues. Again, cooked vegetables that are low in fiber, like cooked carrots or steamed carrots, potatoes which are baked, beetroot, green beans. So all these again can be taken in small quantities, which not only help to provide you energy, but it also helps you to fill the stomach and is light on the stomach as well. It is easy to digest. Then having the simple boiled yellow moong dal khichdi or just some boiled moong dal is again a good option because that will provide you proteins as well and provide you with energy. Now, eating bananas can be a list of to-do things if you're suffering from gastroenteritis or typhoid related complaints because banana has potassium in it and it provides a lot of energy. It's an energy supplement. Honey can also be taken because the best way to fulfill your body's sugar needs during such conditions is to have honey because it has antibacterial properties. And if you want to have sugar, sugar can cause inflammation, but honey will be much more safer. And finally, you could look at taking omega-3 fatty acid rich foods. So this could be, your seeds and nuts which are available, but in small quantities, like probably one or two almonds which are soaked overnight, one small piece of walnut, some sunflower seeds. So all these can be taken, because these are rich in omega-3 and are recommended good foods if you're suffering from typhoid or gastroenteritis or jaundice for that matter. So these are some common food items that you can eat when you're dealing with such gastrointestinal problems. Now, what are the tips that you can incorporate to prevent waterborne diseases, developing in the monsoon season? You should always look at boiling water and washing fruits and vegetables thoroughly before you consume them. Now, you should keep your food covered all the time and avoid consumption of outside food. So, bahar ka khana nahi khana hai. That is very important. And ensure personal and environmental hygiene is maintained all the times. Carry a hand sanitizer or wash your hands often so that you do not ingest any bacteria or virus. Ensure open drains and potholes in your locality are covered, which is again important, which is a common social responsibility for all of us. Now, moving on, we'll talk about the last segment, that is the airborne diseases, which are again very common during the monsoon seasons. So, monsoon brings with it multiple airborne infections that are transmitted by tiny pathogens, which are the disease-causing viruses, through the air. Now, resulting in the common flu, the viral fever, the cold, the cough, and sore throat. So these are mostly mild and can often and can cause minor infection in adults. However, due to a weak or developing immune system, if the immune system is not strong, and specifically this is seen in senior citizens and children, even a normal cough and cold can become quite persistent. So usually cold and flu happen due to the sudden fluctuations in temperature during the monsoons. So, on some days the weather is very warm, then it becomes quite humid, and then the rain starts to pour and the evenings become cooler. And because of this sudden change in temperature, a person who has a weakened immunity can easily catch cold, have a sore throat, and have fever and runny nose as well. Some people can also, catch the influenza, which is a seasonal flu, which can easily spread from one person to the other, and it is transmitted through air. So symptoms of influenza are very similar to cold. There will be fever, there will be cough, there will be cold, there will be red eyes, there could be, watery eyes as well. So how do we manage these conditions? So obviously we out here look at improving the immunity of a person. Now these two specific herbal remedies They work wonderfully well if a person is suffering from lowered immunity and if the glands are involved. So the first remedy is called echinacea, which is a flower-based remedy which is available in multiple forms. You will have echinacea available in over-the-counter health stores. You will also have echinacea available, as a herbal tea. You can also take echinacea in the homeopathic form, which is available in the mother tincture form. So this remedy specifically works on our respiratory system. It helps to improve our immune response by strengthening the respiratory system, and it reduces the tendency to catch cough and cold in every change of season. So if you have a child at home who falls sick with every change of season and you have to give him antibiotics, then echinacea is a good remedy which can help in improving the immunity of such a child. Similarly, calamure is for people who have glandular infections, wherein the glands become involved. So, if a person is suffering from sinusitis, if a person is suffering from congested tonsils, if the person has pharyngitis, if the throat is inflamed, and if this happens on a regular basis, then calamure, which is available in the biochemic form, can be taken, and this helps to further enhance your immune response as well. Now, again, if you're suffering from any kind of cough and cold, there are certain tips to prevent the airborne disease from moving from one person to the other. To improve your immunity, take some warm fluids. You will feel better. Your desire to cough, your cold sensations would reduce. Uh, as in when you cough or sneeze, you should cover up. Either wear a mask or probably if you have to cough or sneeze into your armpit. Use tissues to blow the nose and dispose them in the bin securely. Do not let them, let them be lying down. And maintain good hand hygiene. That means you should be washing your hands on a regular basis so that you do not contaminate the area around you. And if possible, stay in well ventilated areas, because if you are living in a very closed environment, there's a high possibility that the germs may circulate faster to other people, and you could then pass on the virus very quickly to your family members or to your colleagues or to anyone else who comes in direct contact with you. Now, we've already talked about this is just a summation of precautions that you need to take in the rainy season. So keep yourself hydrated at all times. Ensure that you drink only boiled water and avoid drinking anything from outside. Follow a strict personal hygiene routine at all times to avoid any kind of fungal infection. Again, wear full sleeved and light clothes to protect your skin. I'm specifically talking about mosquito borne diseases out here. Eat a balanced diet and keep your immune system strong. You should look at consuming freshly washed, boiled vegetables, reduce your intake of fats, oils, and sodium, and also avoid, milk if in case you are sensitive to it. Again, keep your surroundings clean to help protect against infections and flu. Wash your hands frequently, avoid street vendors, and get rid of stagnant water, which is a breeding ground for many insects, including mosquitoes. Now we'll talk about some ways in which we can look at enhancing our immunity. Now, see, when we talk about immunity, please understand that immunity cannot be enhanced or boosted by just taking a pill or probably doing one or two things correct. You have to look at it from a very holistic perspective, which helps the immune system to respond optimally. So, the first important thing is diet. So, reduce diet which is high in additives, preservatives, and sugar. तो इसका ये मतलब है कि आपको जो खाना खाना है that should be a very wholesome and proper meal, and you should look at avoiding things which have high amount of preservatives, additives, and sugar in it, because all these items cause inflammation, and when inflammation takes place, it makes it more difficult to fight the virus and bacteria that you may be surrounded with. So instead of highly processed foods, make sure that you eat plenty of fresh whole foods, include fresh fruits and vegetables in your diet, have nuts and seeds, and have lean proteins. Provide yourself with a variety of vegetables. जितनी भी हरी साग सब्जियां हैं, कलरफुल फ्रूट्स हैं, कलरफुल वेजिटेबल्स हैं, ये सब आपको खाना चाहिए, बिकॉज इसके थ्रू आपको नहीं तो आपको जितना भी विटामिन मिनरल्स हैं वो सब आपको रिसीव हो जाता है. You could look at having blueberries also because they are a rich source of improving your immunity. Again, foods which are high on probiotics are healthy for the bacteria, for the gut bacteria. Probiotics kya hai? Those things which kind of improve the normal bacteria of the gut, which is the healthy bacteria, and it helps to protect the digestive system. So example again would be dahi or curd, which you can have. So again, some people are sensitive to yogurt or curd because it may cause sneezing episodes. So such people can have it in the fresh form and only in the afternoons, but not in the evenings. Similarly, fermented food is again important. And in India, हमारे पास काफी अच्छे sources है fermented food के. So whether it is the achar that you have, whether it is food items like the idli or the dosa or the dhokla, so all these are rich in fermented food, and these are very important to prevent infections like salmonella or typhoid and E. coli, which are very common stomach-related infections. Now, exercising is important because अगर आप physically fit रहते हैं तो आपका शारीरिक तौर पे जो आपको हेल्थ चाहिए वो आपको मिलती है. And exercise also improves the blood circulation. It helps to tone up the muscles and improves the overall bodily functions. So aim at uh, at doing at least 20 to 30 minutes of daily brisk exercises or anything. It could be bicycling, it could be cardio based activity, it could be any kind of Zumba based activity, anything which improves the circulation to the heart. That is the kind of exercise that you should aim and do it for 20 to 25 minutes if you do not have much time. But ensure that you do it at least 5 times a week. The third important factor to enhance your immunity is countering stress. अब देखिए टेंशन सबको होती है, स्ट्रेस सबको होता है, बट इट इज हाउ वी डील विद स्ट्रेस दैट मेक्स अस हेल्दियर. अगर आप हमेशा स्ट्रेस और टेंशन में रहेंगे तो ओवरऑल आपका जो बॉडी का इम्यूनिटी है वो भी आस्ते आस्ते कम हो जाएगा एंड यू विल फ्रीक्वेंटली फॉल सिक. So incorporating practices like breathing meditation, or probably focusing on your breath, doing some pranayama on a daily basis, doing some yoga practices for 15 to 20 minutes can help in a nice manner to control your stress levels. Similarly, अगर आप ऐसे हैं कि आप अपने मन में सब चीजें रखते हैं, you're not able to take out things from your heart, and if something has happened, it keeps on bothering you. You can look at journaling, which is basically writing down your thoughts. And you could do this every day in the evenings. You could spend some time writing down what has gone, what has happened in the day. Not with the idea of reading what you've written, but the idea of letting it out of your system. So these could be good thoughts, these could be bad thoughts also. But again, journaling helps to develop the art of letting go. Engage in hobbies. Some people like music, some people like playing, some people like gardening, some people like spending time with pets. So do whatever you feel connected with, and do it, if not more, do it for 10-15 minutes on a daily basis. And this again helps to counter stress and reduce the stress levels also. Finally, an important aspect or to enhance immunity is sleeping. So improve your sleep patterns. 6 से 8 घंटे सोना चाहिए, बट वो सॉलिड स्लीप होनी चाहिए. उसके लिए आपको कुछ स्पेसिफिक चीजें फॉलो करनी है. एटलीस्ट सोने से 1.5 घंटा पहले you should be away from all your gadgets, whether it is your mobile phone, whether it is television, whether it is social media. Just try to switch off from all these distractions, because this can again prevent proper sleep. So that is what sleep hygiene is all about. That is what decompression time is all about, wherein you can spend some time with yourself away from all these distractions. Respect your circadian rhythm, which basically means that you should follow a very specific pattern, which is in sync with nature's biorhythm, which basically means that you should have a proper wake up time and sleep time. ऐसा नहीं होना चाहिए कि आप किसी दिन रात को 10 बजे सो रहे हैं, तो किसी दिन 2 बजे सो रहे हैं, तो किसी दिन 3 बजे, तो फिर चौथे दिन आप 11 बजे सो रहे हैं रात को, और सुबह अकॉर्डिंगली आप कभी 7 बजे उठ रहे हैं, कभी 9 बजे उठ रहे हैं, कभी 6 बजे उठ रहे हैं. तो उससे आपका बॉडी का जो बायोरिदम है वो अफेक्टेड हो जाता है, एंड obviously you do not get proper sleep. Similarly, eating should be done at proper times, because that again has an impact on your biorhythm. So some people eat breakfast at 8 o'clock on some days. Then they skip breakfast on a couple of days, which then they have the breakfast at 11 a.m. And probably similarly they do so for their lunch and dinner. So in such cases also the biorhythm gets affected and your sleep cycle can get impacted. Now melatonin is a hormone which is produced by the pineal gland, and this hormone is basically produced more in the evening hours. More क्या evening में ही ये produce होता है, evening and night में. So if in case you are surrounded by bright light, अगर आप शाम को bright light में काम कर रहे हैं या आपके bedroom की light बहुत ज़्यादा strong है, so this will impact your sleep to a great extent. This will hamper your sleep as well because this will reduce the production of melatonin, and once that happens, it will disturb your sleep cycle. So ensuring that good amount of melatonin is produced in the evening, spend time in dimly lit rooms. Bedroom light should be very dimly lit. So these are again important aspects to improve your sleep. Now I will move to the final part, which is talking about certain acupressure points which can help in enhancing immunity. So these points can be quite beneficial, because what do these points do is these points work on the different internal organs that we have, and when we are working on the internal organs, it helps to optimize the flow of energy within the organs, and this helps to promote or enhance immunity. Now, मैंने आपको इम्यूनिटी के कुछ फैक्टर्स बताए थे, जैसे अगर आपकी इमोशनल डिस्टर्बेंसेस हो रहे हैं, अगर आप स्ट्रेस्ड आउट हैं, तो आपका इम्यूनिटी लेवल खराब हो सकता है. So there are certain points out here which work on our emotions. There are certain points which work on our inflammation. It helps to reduce inflammation in the body. And there are certain points which help in proper assimilation of food. And there are certain points which work on the liver area. Sorry, in the lungs area. जो lungs की energy को enhance करता है. So in this manner, in this way, these acupressure points can improve your immunity. Now, there are 5 points that I'm going to talk about. So the first point is present below the collarbone. So the bone out here is called the collarbone, and right below the bone on either side of the midline. Midline is a line which divides the body into two equal parts. So this is called the midline, and these are 2 points on either side of the midline. And this is about 1 inch from the center, from the midline, right below the collarbone. So these are 2 points which, when stimulated, they help in improving immunity by working on the respiratory system, by working on the lung energy. So जिन लोगों को सर्दी खांसी बहुत जल्दी होती है, जिनके lungs जल्दी से congested हो जाते हैं, the lung energy gets congested. So stimulating this point can help in improving the flow of energy in the respiratory channels and help in improving the immune response. तो दीज आर 2 पॉइंट्स, एक आपके राइट साइड में, एक आपके लेफ्ट साइड में है. तो आपको हर पॉइंट को कम से कम 30 से 45 सेकंड्स तक स्टिमुलेट करना है. तो आपने एक पॉइंट पकड़ा राइट साइड का, आपने उसको 30 से 45 सेकंड तक स्टिमुलेट किया. एंड व्हेन आई टॉक अबाउट स्टिमुलेशन, आई बेसिकली मीन दैट यू अप्लाई जेंटल प्रेशर टू दैट पर्टिकुलर पॉइंट. वंस यू डन इट ऑन वन साइड, मूव टू द अदर साइड एंड स्टिमुलेट द पॉइंट. और जो अगला पॉइंट है वो हमारी छाती के बीच में है, वो एक सिंगल पॉइंट है, बिकॉज वो मिड लाइन पे है. So this point is right at the breastbone, जहाँ पर छाती पे एक हड्डी होती है, ये उसके ऊपर पॉइंट है, and this is in line with the nipples, and this point helps in multiple ways. ये जो पॉइंट है, इसके नीचे एक there's a gland called the thymus gland. Now the thymus gland helps in the production of specific white blood cells called T lymphocytes, which are very important in our immune response. And similarly, this point is very close to the heart and the lungs. In Chinese medicine, our organs are associated with certain emotions. Like the heart is associated with joy, the lungs are associated with sadness, the liver is associated with anger, the kidneys are associated with fear. So when you are feeling stressed out, when you are anxious, जब आपका मन शांत नहीं है, जब आपको थोड़ा if you're feeling sad, stimulating this point can help in reducing such symptoms as well. You will feel mental calmness developing if you stimulate this point gently. So that is the importance of this point in our immune response. The third point is present in the elbow area. So आप देखेंगे कि ये आपके जो अंगूठा है, आपके जो thumb है, thumb से if you bring your finger down, it is at the outer border of your elbow, at the outer end of your elbow crease. What is the elbow crease? Elbow crease is the joint wherein you can fold the elbow. So this point is right at the outside, on the outer edge, and this is a painful point. अगर आप इस point को press करेंगे, you may feel some pain. So this pain is because this point is also associated with not only inflammation in the body, but this is also associated with the neck muscles. So if you have neck muscle tightness, stimulating this point and the next point that I'll talk about helps to reduce the pain and tightness in the neck muscle area. The fourth point is present on the hands, between the index finger and the thumb. So this is right in between. So if you bring your thumb and index finger together, you will see that this point becomes elevated. ये जो muscle है जो फूल जाता है. This point is right at the center of the elevation at the highest point. So once you've located the point, apply pressure. And this point again can be painful because if you kind of use your hands while typing for a long period of time, or if you have tightness in the neck muscle area, so this point can be quite painful. So that is fine. You can still press the point for about 30 to 45 seconds. This is again a very good point for headaches also. जिनको सर में दर्द होता है, they can look at stimulating this point and it will help in reducing the intensity of pain as well. Now, the last point is present below the knee. It falls on the stomach meridian, which basically means it helps in the process of digestion. It helps the stomach to digest food better. It also is a point which provides energy to the body. अगर आप बहुत टायर्ड और फटीग फील कर रहे हैं, अगर आपके घर में एल्डरली सिटीजन है जिनकी एनर्जी लेवल्स कम रहते हैं, इस पॉइंट को अगर आप स्टिमुलेट करते हैं तो एनर्जी फीलिंग जो होती है वो बढ़ जाती है बॉडी में. So again, how do you locate this point? अगर आपको राइट पैर में पॉइंट लोकेट करना है, you will use your left hand fingers for locating the point. And if you have to locate the point on your left knee, below your left knee, use your right hand fingers. Bring all the four fingers together and place the index finger at the level of your knee. So I'm specifically sitting out here so that I can show the point to you. So if you look at my knee, so this is my knee joint. I will place my hand at the level of my knee joint, and wherein my little finger falls is the location of this point. And once I've located the point, I'm going to apply pressure to this point for about 30 to 45 seconds or up to 1 minute also. And this will help not only in improving my digestive process, improving the stomach energy, it also helps to improve energy in the body. And in that way, it helps to improve the immune response. Now, so this is the set of all the points. So you start from the first point. I'm doing a recap now. We start from the first point, which is below the collarbone. This is the first 2 points. Then we move to the next point, which is in the center of the chest. Then we have the point on the elbows, elbow crease on both sides. Then we have the points on our hands on both the sides. And then finally, we have the point on the knee that we locate on both the sides and stimulate the point. So if you kind of stimulate it all together, you will spend about 5 minutes in doing this. And you can do this 2 to 3 times in a day, depending upon your specific needs. So thank you so much for being a part of this session.